just wanted to make a video on insomnia. And I often get people just on this page, but friends as well, just, kind of, I think, in the best interest, just trying to explain like, oh, well, of course you're going to forget things because you have insomnia, and oh, maybe this is mental health related because you have insomnia. And I just want to read out, I've done my research a long time ago, but I want to read out how it's actually not insomnia that's happening to me, okay? And so I'm just going to read off this thing. Insomnia, Alzheimer's disease insomnia, is a symptom of progressive damage to the brain's internal sleep centers. Unlike regular insomnia, which is often tied to stress, habits, or psychological factors, Alzheimer's disease-related insomnia is caused by actual physical destruction of brain tissue. The brain's sleep-wake cycle relies heavily on a master clock called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, SCN, along with specific areas that produce wake-promoting chemicals like orexin. I could be saying all these wrong. So the structural part of the degeneration that causes this, in Alzheimer's, neurodegeneration physically destroys the neurons in the sleep regulation centers. There's the circadian disruption. The loss of the cells that are severely damaged by Alzheimer's affects the circadian rhythm, explaining why individuals with Alzheimer's experience erratic sleep patterns, sundowning, and fragmented sleep. There's a chemical imbalance that also happens, and there is often a severe reduction in melatonin production, the hormone that tells our body it's time to sleep. So there's a difference between insomnia and Alzheimer's insomnia. I have a hard time talking and reading. Okay, while both conditions result in sleeping, the fundamental difference lies in the root cause and the subsequent damage. So the cause, regular insomnia, is typically found as a functional or psychological issue, heightened anxiety, irregular patterns, or overreactive stress response. Alzheimer's insomnia is structural and biological, stemming from cell death in the brain's sleep regulation centers and abnormal protein deposits. The bidirectional trap, and this is interesting, and some people would probably be surprised. I was surprised. Chronic regular insomnia can slightly increase your risk of dementia by aging the brain and preventing waste clearance. However, in Alzheimer's, this relationship is a vicious two-way cycle. The degeneration of sleep centers makes sleep difficult, and this lack of sleep prevents the brain from flushing out toxins, that toxic metabolic waste like the beta amyloid and tau proteins. This buildup further accelerates Alzheimer's progression in a repeating cycle. So when you're sleeping, your brain naturally gets rid of these proteins that build up in your brain and cause brain damage. Basically, those parts of your brain to die. Whatever. I'm having a hard time. It's fine. So essentially, so I was with a friend the other day, and they were like, well, yeah, of course, like, you have insomnia, so that's going to create memory loss and, mental health issues. And the thing is, there's no mental health issues going on here except for grief for me. And that's not a mental health issue. That is just a grieving process that the body naturally does when one is dying. But when somebody, and I know people are doing it with the best intention, is trying to relate, well, if you just get sleep, you'll blah, 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 you'll feel better and did it. And yes, totally agreed. The first thing is I have to sleep. I do. But the thing is, I don't have control over that, because actually what's happening is biologically, my brain, the parts of the brain that are damaged, is the parts of the brain where your brain is supposed to be told it's time to go to sleep. And that's why you'll often see switching from anyone, and I know a lot of my followers work with people with Alzheimer's, so you'll see them sleeping during the day and then awake at night. And the sundowning is part of that. So sundowning usually happens late afternoon, and it's irritability, restlessness, agitation, all of that stuff. And none of that is psychological. None of that is just regular insomnia. That is biologically and structurally my dying brain. And yeah, insomnia sucks, but this is not insomnia. This is my brain dying. And then, of course, the less you sleep when you have Alzheimer's, the worse your Alzheimer's gets, because you're not able to clear out the proteins that are building up in your brain, which is actually what Alzheimer's is. So, and it did say, I don't know, I could research a little bit more, but it does say that regular insomnia does slightly increase your risk of dementia, which of course that makes sense. Like if you're not sleeping, your brain is not able to get rid of those tau proteins and plaque in your brain, and that is essentially what Alzheimer's is. So yeah, it's really hard to explain that to somebody when they're like, yeah, it's just, insomnia, blah, 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 blah. And yes, 100% my quality of life is better when I'm sleeping. Just slept 13 hours, but I still feel like I have Alzheimer's. It's such an interesting thing. I might be able to put on makeup and see a friend for an hour, but it doesn't change anything. And the insomnia just gets worse because this is a progressive illness. Like, I think a big part of what people don't fully understand, and something that was said to me again yesterday, and again was out of no fault of this person, they know I'm not doing well and I'm not going to be here for much longer. That's hard for people to understand when they look at me. And the thing is, and they did say, like, if you see somebody with cancer, you can tell that they're really sick. And I said to this person, well, I could show you the video of me 2 days ago where, like, I did look like a patient who is dying. This is a progressive illness. It's not like, progression isn't like, you wake up and you have Alzheimer's and you're like, you look dead. Do you know what I mean? It's progressive. It slowly goes down, which means some days are good, some days are bad. And I mean, I've posted on here many times when I'm not looking good and looking sick, and it's because I am. And I know people don't mean any harm. I think there's just such a lack of education, which is like my biggest point in doing these videos, is I would never want anyone to experience the discrimination and the judgment and the critiquing. And I've had people say terrible, awful things to me about this disease. There is a behavioral part of that as well, and I've had issues with that for sure, like feeling less, like that pause when you're irritated or frustrated. I used to be pretty good at that. I'm not very good at that, and I've been blamed for that on multiple occasions, and it's not me. Like, the me that is always been me is a therapized version of myself who's constantly doing work to be a better person, to be a better human to other people around me that I love, but also just to be a better member of society, because I was not a great member of society for so long. And instead of getting any form of grace around that, I'm getting criticism and being told that, it's almost like it's like a personal attack on me, and I don't have control over these things. Like, and there are times where I'm like, yeah, I could have reacted or responded better to that. And I will own that for sure. But I think people forget that this isn't just Alzheimer's where you see people walking around with a walker. Like, this is a multifaceted disease. And again, in my other video, I was talking about being outside and the visual spatial, and I can get into more of what the disease does and how it presents, and it's not the person's fault. So if you have a loved one who is not sleeping, and giving them ideas on how to sleep is a loving thing to do, but it's also really loving to be like, this is really hard for you. I can't imagine what having insomnia with Alzheimer's, because you have no control over it, how hard that must be for you. Or, oh, you're super reactionary right now. That doesn't feel good to me. Let's sit down and talk about a way of how we can deal with this together. that is more helpful, you know? So just love your loved ones with Alzheimer's is what I'm